The station black market smelled like death and desperation. It always did. The lower decks of the dying space station had become a place where laws meant nothing and credits meant everything. Here, 100 different species traded in things that should never be sold: living creatures, stolen organs, weapons that could burn cities, and slaves who had given up hope. Myra walked through this nightmare alone. She was 12 years old, small for her age, and her jumpsuit had been patched so many times that the original color was impossible to guess. Her boots were too big. She had stuffed paper into the toes to make them fit. Her dark hair was cut short and uneven because she had done it herself with a broken blade. She carried exactly 3 credits in her pocket, 3 small metal coins that had taken her 2 years to save. 2 years of crawling through filtration vents on her hands and knees, scrubbing away the black mold that grew in the station's lungs. 2 years of breathing in poison and coughing up blood. 2 years of saving every tiny payment while other children spent theirs on food or comfort. She was supposed to buy protein paste today, the gray, tasteless stuff that kept humans alive on the station. Her stomach hurt from hunger, and she knew she should walk straight to the food vendor and spend her credits wisely. But Myra had never been wise. She stopped walking. Something had caught her eye at the very edge of the market, past the rows of cages filled with screaming creatures, past the tables covered with illegal technology, past the fighting pits where monsters tore each other apart for entertainment. There, in the shadows where nobody looked, sat a small rusty cage, and inside that cage lay something that made Myra forget how to breathe. It was a dragon. Not the small lizards that rich people kept as pets, not the gene-spliced monsters that fought in the pits. This was a real dragon, a dragon. Myra had seen pictures of them in the old Earth story files. Once upon a time, 3 entire star systems had these creatures as gods. Their scales were worth more than starships. Their fire could melt through the hulls of battle cruisers. They were the most beautiful and terrible things in the known galaxy. They were also extinct, hunted to the last one for their precious scales, dead and gone like so many other things. Except this one was not dead, not yet. Myra moved closer, her heart pounding. The dragon was barely larger than a dog, curled in on itself like a dying ember. Its scales, which should have shone like liquid fire, were dull and gray and falling away in patches. Its wings were torn, reduced to shredded membranes stretched over bone. Its ribs pushed against its skin with every shallow breath. It was starving, it was broken, it was dying. A sign hung on the cage, written in rough letters: 3 credits, meat only, dying anyway. Myra stood there for a long time, staring at the creature. Its eyes were closed. She was not even sure it knew she was there. A merchant noticed her looking. He was tall, covered in purple scales of his own, and his teeth were filed to sharp points. He laughed, a cruel, wet sound. "You want it, little human?" he asked. 3 credits gets you the whole thing. Not much meat on the bones, but maybe enough for a few meals. It will be dead before sunset anyway. Been dying for weeks. Myra's hand went to her pocket. She touched the 3 credits there, her entire savings, everything she had. "What happened to it?" she asked. Her voice came out small and thin. The merchant shrugged. "Who knows? Who cares? Someone found it drifting in a wreck near the outer rim. Last of its kind, they say. Thought it would be worth something, but look at it. Scales are worthless now, too damaged. Meat is probably toxic. Nobody wants a dying god. Nobody wants a dying god." The words hurt something deep inside Myra's chest. She looked at the dragon again, at its shallow breathing, at the way its claws had scraped against the floor of the cage, trying to find comfort on the cold metal, at the way it had curled its broken wings around itself, like a child trying to hide from the dark. She knew what it felt like to be dying and alone. She knew what it felt like to have nobody want you. "I'll take it," she said. The merchant stared at her. Then he laughed again, louder this time. Other beings in the market turned to look. You will buy it. What for, little human? You cannot eat it, you cannot sell it, you cannot do anything with it except watch it die. Myra pulled the 3 credits from her pocket and held them out. Her hand was shaking, but her voice was steady. I said I'll take it. The merchant snatched the credits from her palm, still laughing. Stupid human, stupid human, wasting your money on dead meat. Take it then, take your worthless god. He kicked the cage toward her. Inside, the dragon did not move, did not react. It was too far gone to even notice. Myra grabbed the handle of the cage and pulled. It was heavy, heavier than she expected, and the metal scraped against the floor with an awful sound. Beings moved out of her way, watching her with curiosity and contempt. Some laughed. Some shook their heads. A few made comments in languages she did not understand, but she could guess their meaning. Foolish, wasteful, stupid little human. She did not care. She dragged the cage through the market, past the traders and the killers and the broken things for sale. She dragged it into the maintenance tunnels where she lived, into the forgotten spaces where the station's systems hummed and groaned. She dragged it into a small room she had made her own, filled with salvaged blankets and stolen heat lamps and pictures of Earth she had printed from the station's old databases. Only when she was alone, truly alone, did she open the cage door. The dragon did not move. Its eyes remained closed, but Myra could see its chest rising and falling just barely, just enough. It's okay, she whispered, even though she knew it probably could not hear her. I'm here now, you're not alone anymore. She sat down next to the cage, pulled her knees to her chest, and began to wait. She had no plan, no medicine, no way to save a dying god. But she had herself, and sometimes that was enough. The dragon opened its eyes on the second day. Myra had not slept. She had been sitting beside the cage, talking in a soft voice about nothing and everything, and when those ancient eyes finally opened, she stopped mid-sentence and forgot how to speak. The dragon's eyes were like looking into the heart of a dying star. They held colors that Myra did not have words for, shades of gold and red and something deeper, something older than light itself. Even weak, even broken, those eyes held a power that made her feel very small. But she did not run. The dragon studied her for a long moment. Its mind reached out, brushing against hers like a whisper of smoke. It was telepathic. Myra remembered that from the old stories. Dragons could touch thoughts, read memories, speak without words. What it found in her mind seemed to confuse it. She felt its question before it formed into words. Why? Myra did not know how to answer. She shrugged, a very human gesture, and said, You were dying. I had 3 credits. It seemed like the right thing to do. The dragon's eyes narrowed. It searched her thoughts more deeply, looking for the trick, the hidden purpose, the secret greed. Every species in the galaxy wanted something. Every species took and consumed and destroyed. The dragon had lived for centuries, and it had learned this truth over and over again until it became the only truth it knew. But in this human child's mind, it found nothing but simple, painful compassion. It found loneliness that matched its own. I don't have any medicine, Myra said. I don't know how to heal you. I don't know if you can even understand me, but I have water, and I have food, and I can stay with you if you want. She pulled a small container from her pocket, her water ration for the day. She should drink it herself. Her body needed it. Her cracked lips and dry throat screamed for it. But instead, she opened the dragon's mouth gently, carefully, and dripped the water onto its tongue. The dragon was too weak to resist, too weak to do anything but swallow. Myra talked while she worked. She told the dragon about Earth, a planet she had never seen. Her grandmother had been born there, back before the wars and the migrations and the long journey into space. Her grandmother had told her mother stories, and her mother had told Myra, and now Myra told the dragon. She told it about blue skies and green trees and water that fell from the clouds. She told it about animals that lived in the ocean, bigger than starships, that sang songs to each other across thousands of miles. She told it about mountains covered in white snow and deserts painted in orange and red. She told it about her parents who had died 3 years ago when the station's reactor failed. 47 humans had died that day and nobody had cared. Humans were cheap on station, replaceable, forgettable. She told it about the 2 years since, living alone in the maintenance tunnels, learning to survive on scraps and silence. "I know what it's like," she whispered, "to be the last of something, to have nobody who remembers what you used to be." The dragon listened. It had touched 10,000 minds in its long life, the minds of emperors and warriors, scientists and priests, monsters and saints. It had felt greed and ambition and hatred and fear. It had felt worship and terror and hunger and rage. It had never felt anything like this. This child wanted nothing from it. She expected no reward. She was not trying to harvest its scales or drain its power or use it for her own gain. She was simply there, offering what little she had, refusing to let it die alone. It was irrational. It was inefficient. It made no sense. It was the most human thing the dragon had ever witnessed. On the third day, Myra stole a heat lamp from a waste reclamation unit. She nearly got caught. A maintenance bot spotted her, and she had to run through the tunnels for an hour before she lost it. But she got the lamp, and she set it up beside the dragon, and she watched as its shivering slowly stopped. She gave it her food rations, too. She mashed them into a paste and fed them to the dragon one tiny bite at a time. Her own stomach cramped with hunger, but she did not stop. "You need it more than I do," she said, when the dragon's mind brushed against hers with something like protest. "I've been hungry before. I can be hungry again." The dragon did not understand, could not understand. In all its centuries of existence, no creature had ever given up its own survival for the dragon's sake. It had been, yes. Feared, yes. Hunted and caged and broken, yes. But loved, never. On the fourth day, something changed. Myra woke up to light. Not the harsh white light of the station's failing systems. Not the red emergency lights that flickered in the tunnels. This was different, warm and golden and alive, like sunlight on the earth she had never seen. The light was coming from the dragon. Its scales, which had been dull and gray and falling away, were beginning to glow. The color was returning, deep crimson and burning orange and shimmering gold. The torn wings were still broken, but they seemed stronger somehow, more solid. The dragon opened its eyes, and this time they burned with something more than dying starlight. "What's happening?" Myra whispered. The dragon's voice filled her mind. Not weak now, not fading but growing stronger with every word. "We do not simply die, little one. We are beings of living energy, older than your oldest stars. But we need something to survive, something no one in your galaxy has understood for 1,000 years. "What?" Myra asked. "What do you need?" The dragon's glow grew brighter. "We need to be loved," it said. Not feared, not used. Loved freely, without expectation, without price. And you, small human child with nothing to give but yourself, have done what no emperor or priest or warrior ever could." Myra stared at the dragon. She did not understand. She had not done anything special. She had just stayed. She had just refused to let it die alone. "That is everything," the dragon said. "That is more than everything." The light grew brighter still, until Myra had to shield her eyes. She heard a sound like thunder, like the roar of an ancient engine waking from a long sleep. And when she opened her eyes again, the dragon was no longer the broken thing from the cage. It was something else entirely. The walls of the maintenance room melted away. Not destroyed, just gone, pushed aside like curtains by a force that Myra could not see but could feel in her bones. The metal floors, the tangled pipes, the stolen heat lamp and salvaged blankets, all of it simply ceased to matter as the dragon rose. Myra fell backward, her hands scraping against the floor, her eyes wide and her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break through her chest. The creature before her was not the dying thing from the cage. That dragon had been small, broken, pitiful. This dragon filled the space around it with light and power and ancient, terrible beauty. Its wings unfurled like sheets of crystalline fire, each membrane glowing with colors that hurt to look at. Its scales burned with liquid starlight, crimson and gold and white-hot silver, shifting and flowing like living metal. Its eyes held the birth and death of galaxies, endless cycles of creation and destruction spinning in their depths. It was the most beautiful thing Myra had ever seen. It was also the most terrifying. She should have been afraid. Any reasonable creature would have been afraid. But Myra had spent her whole life being afraid of things, afraid of hunger, afraid of cold, afraid of the dark spaces between the stars. She had learned that fear was just another feeling, and feelings could be ignored when they needed to be. So instead of running, she stood up. Her knees were shaking, but she stood. The dragon looked down at her. Its head was now twice her size, its body filling the corridor and spilling beyond it. Reality itself seemed to bend around the creature, as if the universe was making room for something it had almost forgotten. "You do not run," the dragon observed. Its voice in her mind was different now, deeper, older, resonating with harmonics that made her teeth ache. "Every other creature I have known would run." "I don't have anywhere to go," Myra said simply. "And anyway, I'm not afraid of you." The dragon's massive head tilted, studying her with those impossible eyes. "You should be," it said. I have burned fleets. I have broken worlds. I have been as a god by civilizations that are now dust." Myra shrugged. "You were also dying in a cage that cost 3 credits. I think we're past the scary part." For a long moment, the dragon simply stared at her. Then it made a sound, a deep rumble that shook the walls and rattled the pipes. It took Myra a moment to realize it was laughing. "You are very strange, little human," the dragon said. "But perhaps that is why you were able to save me when no one else could." The dragon folded its wings, a process that should have been impossible in the narrow corridor, but space seemed to cooperate, making room where there was none. It lowered its head until its eye was level with Myra's face. She could see herself reflected in that burning gaze, small and dirty and fragile. "I owe you a debt," it said. "My kind does not forget debts. We are bonded now, you and I. Where you go, I will follow. What threatens you, I will destroy. This is the way of the—" Myra frowned. "I didn't save you to get something out of it." "I know," the dragon said. "That is precisely why the bond is so strong. A gift given without expectation of return is the most powerful kind of magic. Your people have forgotten this. Most species never knew it at all." The dragon raised its head again, and its eyes seemed to look through the walls, through the station, through space itself. "Come," it said, "there is something I must do." Myra did not argue. She followed the dragon as it moved through the station, and "through" was the right word, because walls and doors and barriers simply opened before it, metal flowing aside like water. Beings in the corridors screamed and fled. Alarms began to wail. The station's ancient systems, which had been failing for decades, suddenly sparked back to life as if awakened by the dragon's presence. They emerged into the black market. The chaos stopped. Every creature in that vast, terrible space froze in place. Traders stopped mid-transaction. Slavers dropped their chains. Fighters in the pits lowered their weapons. 100 species, 1,000 beings, all turned to stare at the thing that had just entered their domain. A dragon, a living god, a creature that should not exist. And beside it, holding her head high despite her patched jumpsuit and 2 big boots, walked a human child. The dragon's voice rolled through the market like thunder, touching every mind at once. "This child purchased me for 3 credits," it said. "She found me dying and alone. She gave me her water, her food, her warmth. She gave me something more valuable than all the credits in your galaxy. She gave me compassion, freely and without price." The market remained silent. No one moved, no one breathed. She is now under my protection, the dragon continued. She is bonded to me as I am bonded to her. Her enemies are my enemies. Her pain is my pain. This is the law of the older than your oldest stars. The dragon's eyes swept across the crowd, and every being it looked upon felt their deepest secrets laid bare. Does anyone wish to dispute this transaction? The silence stretched on. Somewhere in the back of the market, a piece of equipment fell over with a crash. No one turned to look. The merchant who had sold the dragon stood frozen near his stall, his purple scales pale with terror. The dragon's gaze found him and held him, and the merchant felt something ancient and terrible examining his soul. You laughed at her, the dragon said. You called her stupid. You kicked my cage like it was garbage. The merchant fell to his knees. I didn't know. No, the dragon agreed. You didn't know, but you should have. That is the difference between your kind and hers. She saw a dying creature and felt compassion. You saw a dying god and felt only contempt. The dragon turned away from the merchant, and Myra saw the relief on his face. Relief that he was still alive, still whole, still breathing. But the dragon was not finished. Remember this day, it said to the market, to the station, to every being within reach of its voice. Remember what a human child did when she had nothing. Remember how she spent her last 3 credits on a dying god, not because she expected reward, but because she could not bear to let me die alone. The dragon's wings flared, and light filled the market like sunrise. Remember, it said, and know that you are being watched. Then it turned and walked away, the small human girl at its side. And behind them, the market remained silent for a very, very long time. 3 days passed, and the merchant named could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the dragon's gaze burning into his soul. Every time he started to drift off, he heard the thunder of its voice in his mind. He had sold the creature for 3 credits, kicked its cage, laughed at the stupid human child who wanted to buy a dying god. Now that dying god was very much alive and was very much afraid. But fear in time turns to anger, and anger in creatures like turns to action. He was not a small-time merchant. He had connections, deep ones, dark ones. The cartels that ran the black market owed him favors. The mercenaries who kept order in the lower decks worked for him sometimes. He had survived in this place for 30 years by being smart and being ruthless. A human child and a dragon would not make him look like a fool. On the 4th day, gathered his people, 12 mercenaries, armed with plasma weapons and neural disruptors, 2 tech specialists who could hack any system, a void-class assassin who had killed things far more dangerous than dragons. They found the girl in the maintenance tunnels, right where knew she would be. She was sitting with her back against the dragon's side, reading from a small data pad. The dragon appeared to be sleeping, its massive form curled around her like a protective shell. Smiled, even gods had to sleep. He stepped forward, his hired soldiers spreading out behind him. "Little girl," he said, his voice echoing through the tunnel, "we need to talk about that transaction." The girl looked up. She did not seem surprised. She did not seem afraid. She simply set down her data pad and stood, placing herself between and the dragon. "What about it?" she asked. "It was fraudulent," said. "You tricked me. You knew the dragon was going to recover. You stole my property." "I paid 3 credits," the girl said. "That was the price on the sign." "The price has changed," gestured to his soldiers. "Now I want the dragon back, and I want compensation for my suffering. Say, everything you own, and maybe a few years of service working off your debt." The girl did not move. "No." Laughed, it was not a pleasant sound. "No, little human, look around you. You are one child, I have a small army. Your dragon is asleep. What exactly do you think you can do?" The girl smiled. It was a strange smile, old and knowing, completely wrong on a 12-year-old face. He's not asleep, she said. The dragon's eyes opened. They were not the eyes of a creature waking from rest. They were the eyes of something that had been watching the whole time, waiting, curious to see what the humans would do. Felt his blood turn cold. Did you think I slept? The dragon's voice filled the tunnel, filled the minds of every mercenary and assassin he had brought. I have not truly slept in 3,000 years. I was watching, listening, giving you a chance to make a different choice. Attack screamed, kill the dragon, kill the girl. Nobody moved. The mercenaries stared at their weapons as if they had never seen them before. The tech specialists had collapsed to their knees, clutching their heads. The Void-class assassin, a creature bred for killing who felt no fear, was trembling like a child. The dragon rose to its full height, and reality bent around it. You came here with weapons, it said. You came here to hurt a child who showed me kindness. You came here to steal and enslave and destroy because that is all you know how to do. I didn't started. Silence. The word was not loud, but it hit like a physical force. His mouth closed. His voice stopped working. He could not speak, could not scream, could not beg. The dragon turned its ancient gaze upon the soldiers had brought. Leave, it said. Go back to wherever you came from. Tell everyone what you saw here today. Tell them what happens to those who threaten the child. The mercenaries ran. The specialists crawled. The assassin vanished into the shadows so fast that it seemed like it had never been there at all. Only remained, frozen in place, unable to move. The dragon lowered its head until its eye was inches from its face. I could kill you, it said. I could burn you from the inside out, leave nothing but ash and screaming memory. I have done this to others. I have done far worse. Tried to speak, tried to beg, but his voice still refused to work. But the child does not want your death. She has asked me to show mercy. Do you understand? A creature you mocked, a species you consider worthless, is the only reason you are still breathing. The dragon turned to look at Myra. She was standing quietly, her hands clasped in front of her, her face unreadable. She thinks all creatures deserve a chance to be better, the dragon said. She believes in redemption. It is a very human belief, foolish perhaps, but beautiful. The dragon's gaze returned too. I will give you that chance. But know this, I am old and I am patient and my reach is long. If you ever harm another creature that cannot defend itself, I will know. If you ever threaten this child again, I will know. And I will find you no matter where you hide, no matter how far you run. The dragon released whatever force had been holding in place. He collapsed to the ground, gasping for air. Go, the dragon said, and remember. Scrambled to his feet and ran. He did not look back. He did not stop running until he was off the station entirely, aboard a cargo ship heading for the outer systems. He never came back to station. The dragon watched him go, then turned to Myra. You should have let me destroy him, it said. He will hurt others. His kind always does. Myra shook her head. Maybe, but maybe he'll change. People can change. The dragon studied her for a long moment. Is that what you believe? It asked truly. It's what I have to believe, Myra said. Because if people can't change, then nothing matters, but if they can, she shrugged, then everything matters, every choice, every kindness, every chance we give each other. The dragon made that rumbling sound again, the one that meant it was laughing, or perhaps crying, or perhaps something in between. Your species is very strange, it said. You are small and weak, and your lives are over almost before they begin. And yet you believe in things that make no logical sense, and somehow those beliefs change the universe around you. Myra smiled and leaned against the dragon's warm scales. Yeah, she said, that's kind of our thing. The news spread faster than light. On 1,000 worlds, on 1,000,000 screens, in the minds of billions of beings, the story traveled. A human child on a dying space station had purchased the last dragon for 3 credits. She had brought it back from the edge of death with nothing but kindness and stubborn refusal to let it die alone. And now that dragon walked beside her, a living god bonded to a 12-year-old girl in a patched jumpsuit. The footage was everywhere. Security cameras had captured the moment in the black market, the dragon rising in glory, the child standing at its side, the entire market falling silent. Someone had recorded it and uploaded it to the galactic networks, and within hours it had been seen by more beings than lived on most planets. The powerful took notice first. Diplomats arrived at station from the great empires, the hegemony of stars, the collective, the Free Systems Alliance. They brought gifts and promises and offers of unimaginable wealth. They wanted access to the dragon. They wanted to study it, to learn its secrets, to add its power to their own. Myra said no. She said no to the ambassador who offered her a palace on a paradise world. She said no to the general who offered her command of a fleet. She said no to the scientist who offered to make her immortal, to give her centuries of life instead of mere decades. "He's not a weapon," she told them. "He's not a tool, he's my friend." The powerful did not understand. They had never met a being who could not be bought, and the idea confused them deeply. Some of them decided that if they could not buy the dragon, they would take it. The assassins came at night. 3 teams from 3 different empires, each one unaware of the others, each one convinced that they would be the ones to succeed. None of them were ever seen again. The dragon did not speak of what happened to them. Myra did not ask. Some things, she understood, were better left unknown. But after the assassins failed, something else happened, something the empires did not expect. Humans started arriving at station. Not soldiers, not diplomats, not spies or merchants or conquerors, just humans, ordinary people from 100 different worlds, carrying whatever they could fit in their bags. They came on cargo ships and passenger liners and private vessels held together with hope and duct tape. They came alone and in families and in groups that had never met before but had organized online during the long journey. They came because they had seen the footage. They had seen a human child spend her last 3 credits on a dying god, and something in them had woken up. The first ones arrived with tools and supplies. They found the failing reactors and fixed them. They found the broken water systems and rebuilt them. They found the sick and hungry and forgotten people of the station and set up medical stations and food distribution centers. More came, engineers and teachers and doctors and builders. They asked nothing in return. They simply saw what needed to be done and did it. The dragon watched all of this with ancient, wondering eyes. "I do not understand," it said to Myra one night, as they sat on an observation deck looking out at the stars. "I have lived for thousands of years. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have watched species burn themselves to ash in their greed and fear. But I have never seen anything like this." "Like what?" Myra asked. "Like this." It gestured with one great wing at the station around them, at the lights that now worked, the corridors that were now clean, the children who now played where only criminals had walked before. One child did one kind thing, and now thousands of your species have come here to be worthy of that kindness. Myra thought about it for a moment. "I think," she said slowly, "that humans need to believe in something. We're not very strong and we don't live very long, and sometimes the universe is really, really scary. So we need stories. We need heroes. We need to believe that one person can make a difference. And when they see someone making a difference, then they want to help, they want to be part of the story." Myra smiled. "It's not logical, it doesn't make sense, but it's who we are." The dragon was silent for a long time, its massive form a warm presence beside her. "I have lived for," it said finally. "I have seen wonders that would break your mind and horrors that would shatter your soul. I have been and feared and hunted and caged. And in all that time, I never understood why the universe bothered to create beings as fragile and short-lived as humans." Myra waited. But now I think I know, the dragon continued. You are proof that the universe has a sense of hope. You are the answer to every species that says kindness is weakness, that compassion is foolish, that only the strong deserve to survive. You are small and brief and impossibly stubborn, and you keep choosing to be good even when it costs you everything. That's the point, Myra said quietly. If it was easy, everyone would do it. The dragon looked at her, really looked at her, with all its ancient wisdom and terrible power. Yes, it said, I suppose that is the point. They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the stars wheel past the viewport. Below them, the station hummed with new life. Humans and aliens worked side by side, building something that had not existed before, not a market for the broken and the stolen, but a home for the lost and the forgotten. It had started with 3 credits and a dying dragon. It had grown into something that the galaxy had never seen. And it was only the beginning. One day the dragon said, "You will be gone. Humans do not live long, and even the young ones grow old and fade." "I know," Myra said. "Will you be afraid when the end comes?" Myra thought about it. She thought about her parents who had died saving others when the reactor failed. She thought about the 2 years alone in the tunnels, learning to survive on nothing. She thought about the 3 credits in her pocket, the dying dragon in its cage, the choice that had seemed so simple at the time. "No," she said, "I don't think I will be." "Why not?" "Because I did something that mattered. I helped someone who needed help. And because of that, other people are helping others, and maybe those people will help others too. It doesn't end when I end. It keeps going." The dragon made that rumbling sound. Its laughter, its tears, its wonder at the strange species it had bonded with. "You are remarkable," it said. "Your whole species is remarkable. I am glad I will get to watch you for as long as you have." Myra leaned against the dragon's warm scales, feeling its heartbeat like distant thunder. "Stay as long as you want," she said. "We've got a galaxy to change." And so they did. The girl who spent 3 credits on a dying god became a legend, not because she was powerful or special or chosen by fate, but because she was kind when kindness was hard, and brave when bravery cost everything, and stubbornly, impossibly hopeful when hope seemed like foolishness. And the dragon, the last of its kind, walked beside her through the stars and learned what it meant to be human. It was, the dragon would often think, the best 3 credits ever spent.